us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord.
Good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday. Welcome to Inspiration for Today. Cecil Stalnaker is still our guest. Cecil just finished writing a book, brand newly published, called Faith Adrift Christianity. It's available on Amazon, and I certainly recommend it for your reading. It. We're going to continue talking about it and kind of pick up where we left off, but I did want to say, since I've got you on the show, Cecil, and we mentioned yesterday that we've known each other for about 50 years. But a neat thing happened when Billy Graham had Amsterdam 2000, which was a meeting of 10,000 evangelists from all over the world. Cecil and Kathy lived it was like a half an hour away from, maybe an hour from the stadium where we met, and you let my daughter and I stay in your house. You remember that?
I do, very well. Very well. Yeah, we were only a few miles, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, I had one of life's most embarrassing moments in Cecil's kitchen, and I don't know if he remembers this.
I don't.
You don't? Okay. That's good, because so what happened was I sat down for breakfast and the chair just crumbled. And I fell on the floor, I just find myself sitting on the floor. And it turns out this was like a keepsake chair. And I feel like I was so broken. But
sorry about that.
No, it wasn't because, well, it's just because I think it was a meaningful chair for Kathy. But anyway, she was gracious to me and so on. But that was great staying with you for a week. And I'll never forget that week, because it was such an amazing conference, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So obviously, even if you didn't listen yesterday, Cecil and Kathy were missionaries in Europe in general, but also just outside of Amsterdam, working teaching at a seminary there, right?
Right, Tyndale Theological Seminary. I'll be back there actually in January, teaching another course, actually.
I wanted you to hear that, because as I asked this question, Cecil, can you tell us what's happening with the Christian church in Europe these days? I know that's a big generalization and it probably varies by country, but do you have any overall impressions?
Well, the church in Europe is mainly a church that's nominal in its faith. I think I mentioned in the last episode that 91% of people in Europe have been baptized as Christians. And
as babies mostly, though, right?
As babies, yes. And 81% say that they've been raised in a Christian home, but only about 15 to 20% would attend a church service. So it's very nominal in that way. Yeah, that's kind of the background on it. There are pockets of good things going on there in different places, that's for sure. And
what about how are the refugees? And most are from Northern Africa, aren't they?
Well, a lot of them are from Africa, Northern Africa. Yeah, they're still coming in. They come through Italy, Greece, for example, Spain. And actually the mission that I work with, I'm still working with it in a volunteer way. There's an island off of Turkey, and many of the refugees make it to that island, and it's a Greek island. And there are about 10,000 refugees on that island that are housed by the United Nations. And the mission I work with actually has missionaries on that island working with those refugees, because the refugees can come and go. And they've actually created a hospitality center where these people from all different faiths will come in. And we've had actually over the last few years, quite a few people have come to Christ and baptism. So the refugees tend to be, whether they're on the continent, they tend to be the more receptive people to the gospel.
That really makes sense. Of course, their lives are in transition at best, chaos at worst. I mean, and they would be open. I'm so thankful for, and his mission is Greater Europe Mission, and Jim. And so I'm so thankful for the GEM missionaries, and I'm sure many or most are your friends. So,
right. One of the interesting things about these refugees, the migrants as they've come into Europe, many of them have established churches now in Europe. And I've had students in my class who were sent to Europe, who come to Tyndale Theological Seminary. And I've asked them why you're here. And they said, my denomination sent me here because after seminary, I'm going to plant a church here in the Netherlands, or in Belgium, or in Germany. And so that's been very interesting, because Africans, for instance, have told me that Europeans brought God to Africa. Now it's Africans, we're bringing God back to Africa, to Europe.
that is full circle, and it's such a blessing. And I say so many need to come to America too. But what countries are kind of the ones that are sending to you there in the Netherlands?
Nigeria is one of the biggest mission sending countries in the world. Ghana also, those are two. Some from the Congo, Ivory Coast. So yeah, they have Christianity is strong in Africa, and so they're attempting to do things in Europe now.
Well, I think that's just wonderful, and I'm thrilled that the church there has vision to go to. Really, Europe now is certainly a mission field.
Definitely.
That's why I appreciate your book a lot too, because you hit the nail on the head. Sometimes it's harder to reach somebody that thinks they already are a Christian.
Right.
Why would I need that? I already am one.
That's right. I've met Christians in Europe who they've told me they're an atheist. How do you be a Christian and an atheist at the same time? I know of a pastor who pastoring a Protestant church in Holland. He's an atheist. How's that work?
We did a whole week of shows on heresy type beliefs in America about a month ago. A stat that I remember is that even here in America, something like 45% of church-going Christians deny that Jesus is the only way to God, that any way is good enough. And it's just not what Jesus said, and it's so anti-gospel. I know all you listeners now to this show know better, and we went through all the facts and Bible truths together. Well, Cecil, it's been really good. You got any last words? What can a person do to make sure they're not one that slips into kind of a lukewarm faith?
Two or three things. I mean, they're simple things. One is make sure they're in a small fellowship gathering with other believers, committed believers. That always makes a difference in a person's life. Secondly, you can't forget reading God's word. In fact, even more than reading is meditating on God's word, because just reading it's kind of like water going through a pipe.
Yeah.
With no absorption. So I know this sounds contrary to a lot of people, but I have been challenged in my life to read the Bible through in a year. I found that doesn't do a lot of good for me. I find if I can read a few sentences, a few verses, a paragraph, and just sit there and think about
Meditate
it,
on
take
those,
it in. I mentioned actually in the book at the end on a way to do that. And of course, being in church, but it takes a discipline to do it.
Well, friends, the book again, Faith Adrift Christianity, Cecil Stalnaker is the author, and you can look it up on Amazon. I hope you get it and read it. Thanks for being on, Cecil. We got to go.
Thank you very
Bye
much.
for now, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore